This is a slightly different intro today because I am not interviewing someone on the podcast. I'm being interviewed. Simon's come up with the idea of me talking about myself, which if you don't have fucking...
I mean, you do love talking about yourself.
I don't know if you've heard
This
me,
should be pretty easy. I'm just probably going to be sat here for 45 minutes.
That's completely new to me, and I've never heard that before, and I'm slightly offended now. I'm offended. I didn't know whether I was going to be embarrassed or offended, but apparently I'm both.
Offended.
I'm offended.
Yeah, so this is episode 16, and what we realised was, you know, you've done all these like amazing podcasts with all these guests, and there's been like little sprinklings of your story.
What's
and,
that Salt Bay hand about?
I just did a little sprinkling for those of you watching on video. And if you watch the YouTube channel, we've done a little bit of your story on there, but I wanted to do like a big deep dive into, you know, how you got started in the fitness industry, how you went on to grow your fitness business and then stop the fitness business and start Collective. So yeah, let's get into it. So what got you started into training first of all? Because I presume getting into training then led to you becoming a coach. So what got you into training?
I used to swim all the time when I was a kid. Like, so I was always I was in a fucking leisure centre like 3 or 4 times a week.
You love a leisure centre, you don't?
Well, this is where it's going, isn't it? So like, I've always been in a leisure centre like 2 or 3 times a week ever since I was a kid. Always played loads of sport. Like, I did boxing and kickboxing when I got a bit old. Like the ones I really did seriously were like basketball and then American football after. Well, I kind of did both for a while, which is why my knees are battered. But like, I've always kind of been into sport, and then my training was kind of like to support the sport stuff. And also just because I was around a leisure centre all the time. So like when I was 16, I was in swimming and we used to like go in the gym. Like that was the age where they were like, all right, you could probably do with being a bit stronger to like help you in your races and stuff like that. So we kind of started dabbling in the gym and stuff like that. And then I just started going a bit more on my own because I quite enjoyed it. And we did a lot of like strength work and stuff like that. So I never went in like, oh, I want to be massive, because I was like, when I was 16, how tall was I? I think it was about 5'6" or 7" when I was 16.
So you've not grown much really, have you?
Grown enough. Said that before as well. But yeah, so that was kind of me getting into the gym. And then I got a job as a lifeguard. Like when I finished college. I think in my second year at college, I got a job as a lifeguard because I did work. Well, I worked for my dad at first, and I fucking couldn't stand that. The work was great, but just me and my dad don't do well. You know, like the longer you spend with someone, like we're brilliant now because I don't live there.
Yeah, same with my
dad. But like the more time we spend together, the more we just irritate the fuck out of each other, which probably tells me that we're pretty similar. But yeah, did that first. Then I worked at McDonald's, which we spoke about before. I think with the small t-shirt, and that was shit. You know, and like your manager's got like 1 GCSE and you're like, bro, come on. Come on, stop telling me what to do. So make sure you clean that. I'm like, you make sure you clean it. You've not even got an MVQ. And that was just shit wage as well. That was like £4.20 an hour. And like, even then, like, it wasn't that long ago, right? It was 15, 16 years ago. £4.20 was still shit. Like, it's not like old money where like £4.20 used to buy you a house.
Gets you a bit, but I think we worked out, and we'll probably get onto this soon. But I think we worked out the other day what your hourly wage was when you were a teacher.
But it weren't much more.
It wasn't. I don't think it was.
And I didn't get free McDonald's.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So the only good thing about that job was like you used to be able to have your own McDonald's for lunch. So and it was basically you could either pay for it, or when it's busy, the burgers are only allowed to stay on the slide thing for so long before you're not allowed to sell them. Now, that time obviously gets pushed out quite far, right? But when the burgers obviously have been there a while, like, and it's
like some dry burgers.
Not too dry, but like when you're like, I don't think I can fucking put that on someone's tray. You have to bin them. So what we used to do is just go in and just like make the most Frankenstein fucking burgers you've ever seen. It'd be like Big Macs with a chicken sandwich in the middle and stuff like that. And I started putting on weight pretty quick after that in the gym, and I wonder why. And a carrot bag though. I had a fruit bag with it. Just
as long as you're eating your fruit and veg, you manage.
But the funny thing was, I don't know whether I told this on the other podcast. The day after I started at that McDonald's, the guy was like, "Oh, you like it was a good thing. Should have been here last week, bro." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "We got robbed." And I was like, "What do you mean you got robbed?" He's like, "Yeah, they locked us in the freezer." And I was like, "Why are you saying this like it's some sort of weird?" He's like, "Bro, nothing happens here." Like, that was exciting. And they locked him in the freezer and robbed the tills.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like, "Oh, this is a great start." I was on the drive-through though, so it wasn't too
So
bad.
you'd have been safe there.
Well, like, so there's hierarchy in McDonald's. And if you've ever worked in McDonald's, you kind of know this, right? So the people that work on the drive-through are the people that can do maths and are able to be left alone without being checked on, like 99.9% of the time. And then when you work on the front tills, it's either because there's someone else on the drive-through and there's just not enough room for two of you, or because they don't really trust you on the drive-through on your own, and they like to have you at the front where they can keep an eye
so
on
the
you.
drive-through staff are the pinnacle of
The
McDonald's
drive-through staff are, they're the top dogs. Well, of the lower ranking.
Right, okay, yeah,
Of
not
the lower
management
ranking
level.
McDonald's workers. No, yeah, non-management level. Think like 1-star recruits, you know,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
stars.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You're a
yeah.
1-star
How does
recruit
that star
at that
system
point.
work, by the
Fuck
way?
knows. I
Do
never
you
got
not
to
know?
2 stars.
You never got 2 stars.
Never got to 2 stars. I think it's more like, you have to go, they put you on MVQs and stuff like that.
Oh, did
and
they?
You go and do like...
I know there's the grad schemes at McDonald's.
Yeah, imagine though. Imagine going
And
to
I mean,
university and
we're not
leaving and
digging
working at
McDonald's here,
McDonald's.
by the way. We're just sort of explaining sort of like how he got started in the working world.
Right, anyway. So, yeah, Frankenstein burgers, that was the best thing about
So
it.
how did you go from Frankenstein Burgers, 1-star McDonald's employee, then into your teaching career? Why was your interest in fitness, did it never occur to you to start your coaching business then rather than going into PT?
This was the rationale behind it. I did, at A-level, I did maths, physics, biology and chemistry. And then in school, I did about 12 GCSEs. I sat one that I just taught myself. Well, I didn't teach it myself, but I did like 1 hour a week with my French teacher from like when I was in lower school. They didn't let me do it at GCSE because I was already doing Latin. So I was just like, fuck it, we'll do it ourselves. So like I'd done loads of GCSE. So it was kind of more like an academical thing that like I got into uni for. And I remember like finishing my first year of chemistry and them going like, right, these are like the options for second year and these are your more like career-based ones. And I was like, I don't want to do any of them. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I don't really want to be a chemist. And they were like, chemistry is probably not a good career then, is it? It's probably not going to be the best degree for you. And I was like, no, you're probably right, to be fair. So I moved to sports science because weirdly, to be a personal trainer when I finished. Actually, I convinced myself that I was going to be like a strength and conditioning coach.
So even though you went into the teaching career, there was always that seed that you could be involved in the fitness industry.
Yeah, so I mean, I did that, and I was working as a lifeguard and a gym instructor at the time, like while. So that's obviously when I met you. Like I was at uni when you were at Virgin Active, and then I don't know. I didn't like sports science at university. To be fair, I just don't think I enjoyed university lectures.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed university life.
Yeah.
But that came at the expense of going to lectures. So I was the one that used to like turn up hungover and play Football Manager on my laptop.
Yeah.
And because I was quote unquote intelligent, I used to pass everything anyway. So like I sat my maths GCSE where I can't remember what year it was in, but I sat my maths GCSE early and I did statistics AS level or something instead in year 11. So when we got into like biomechanics at sports science, like I knew it all already. The guy was like drawing SOHCAHTOA on the board and I was like, bro, this is like fucking year 7 maths this. Like, but obviously other people had got in through like doing BTECs and stuff like that. So I was like, fuck this, I could probably just pass it without turning up. And I did. I kept my attendance just high enough to not get kicked off the course, which was like 30%. And then I passed it. So then I was like, well, I've got my degree, but I've also got no connections in the sporting world now because I never fucking went to university. And just the idea of looking for a job was pretty shit, to be honest with you. And this is one of the issues that I have with the fitness industry, that there's no real career progression for people who want to be personal trainers at a good level. I don't think. It's like, okay, well, there's self-employment, crack on. And I'm like, fucking hell, mate, I've only just started doing my own washing. Like, and I went in for an interview at like LA Fitness in Sale. Was it LA Fitness? You know, the one that's in the big old like cinema church thing.
Purple and yellow branding, yeah.
But it's like dead
LA
nice
Fitness,
inside because it's like a hollow. I swear it's like it was an
I've
old.
never been there, but I went to the one in Manchester.
It was like an old theatre or something like that. It was on Washway Road in Sale. And I remember sat down with the guy and he was like, yeah, this is the job. Like, this is how it works. And I'm like, yeah, what's in there? This is going to be really good, this. And then he was like, right, so the rent's £1,000 a month. And I was like, £1,000. Bearing in mind, I was still living at my mum's, so like I'd never paid £1,000 for anything, nothing. I'd probably never had £1,000 in my bank account. I think it was in minus.
I think the one-on-one coaching industry's changed a little bit, but back then that was pretty much the norm. Was you'd get charged a big chunk of rent and you were sort of on your own with
freelance style.
with the like Virgin Active, Nuffield Healths and Pure Gyms. That model has changed slightly.
Yeah, it has a little bit, but I still think the vast majority of it is clean some toilets and we'll give you £4 an hour and that'll cover your rent, and then you're on your own, lad.
That rent,
like you're on your own. There's no actual like, you know, right, the apprenticeship or something like that. There's not, unless you go work at David Lloyd where they just like throw clients at you, but they pay you like a tenner. Or Virgin to an extent is a very similar, or it was at the time, a very similar structure to that. It's still very almost like dog eat dog.
You're not like,
it is, even then, devices. It's still like, cool, go walk the gym floor and you're like, oh, what am I doing here? Like there's not a lot of, I don't think there's very good career scaffolding to get over that initial gap.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, I just want to fucking make some money.
Yeah.
And my mum was a teacher, and at the time, to be fair, the grant was really fucking good. Like because my degree could be converted into a physics degree, and because I had the A levels that I had, where I had basically like a full broad spectrum of all the sciences and maths, they gave me a STEM like award, which is like science, technology, engineering, and maths. And if you did any one of those subjects, you could train to be a teacher in that subject. And the grant was like 25 bags, tax-free, which when you come out of university, you're like,
it's
fucking
big
nice.
That.
And the course was free.
Yeah.
So like it was like half a master's and it was completely free. And all you had to do was go in the school.
So they dangled the carrot of teaching.
Well, they dangled the carrot of 25 bags without tax on. And I was like, fuck it, I'll have a bit of that.
Swooped in.
A little bit, yeah. Bit the hand off almost. And you know what? Like the actual job of teaching, I enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed helping the kids. I enjoyed being around the school, but then just, I mean, I can't speak for all schools, right? But like the ones that I worked in, there were some absolutely brilliant people, like really like people that, you know, obviously change hundreds of lives. But the vast majority of the staff in a lot of the schools I worked with were like depressed, fucking borderline alcoholics, always complaining about the job, always whinging about leadership and, you know, the senior management team. Like they were never in the staff room and stuff like that, like behind closed doors. It was never really a happy environment.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around thinking, fuck me, there's a load of people here popping antidepressants. Like, not that there's anything wrong with that, but you know what I mean? Like,
it's
like
a
huge
nice
percentage
environment to be in.
Yeah, a huge percentage of people like who hate the fucking job and complain all the time. And I was like, fuck, like this ain't for me really. Like, surely not. And at the time, I was PTing on the side to earn some extra cash. So
what were you do? So you'd kiboshed LA Fitness. So
when I got
how were you doing how were you running a full-time teaching job, which I'm guessing was 50, 60 hours a week, right?
It wasn't so much as that, like in the first year of training.
Right. So how were you coaching on the side then around that?
I used to do it in the morning.
Right.
So I used to do 2 clients in the morning. I used to do one at like 5:30 till 6:30, one at 6:30 till 7:30. I wouldn't train myself because I'd go showered and then I'd change into my suit and then I'd go off to school, and I'd get in school for like, it wasn't far from where the gym was. I think I'd get in school for like 7:45 and then school started at 8:30. So it was fairly all right. And then in your training year, it's not so bad because you don't have a load of marking to do because you're just taking over people's classes. So like that was kind of calm for me because I'd finish at like 4. And that was pretty easy. And then I thought, oh, this is all right. This, like, you know, I could get used to, you know, I was making decent money for what I thought at the time. You're
probably making 500, 600 quid in your coaching on top of your
the coaching was like 400 quid a month for each client. So it was like £800 a month.
Yeah.
And then obviously the teaching wage was like 25k. So it's like $2,000.
Yeah.
Obviously it was tax free.
Yeah.
So that's like $3,000 a month, like coming out of university. So I was like,
buzzing with that.
Sound. Bought a BMW.
Yeah.
Like a dickhead.
Yeah.
Actually, the first I bought a Ford Focus ST because I'd always proper wanted one.
I've seen a photo of this.
Yeah. Like the proper bad boy one that like.
It was blue, wasn't it?
It was like a metallic blue and it had like red brake calipers, which is obviously one of the reasons why I bought it.
Drove it like a dickhead, did you?
Twat. I didn't, because then I realised I couldn't afford to drive it like a dickhead. And that was my dad was like, you're not going to be able to run that. And I was like, fuck off, you don't know what you're talking about. For the one time only on video, he was right. He was right. So I had to sell it, and then I got a BMW 3 Series, which was old as shit. Like, you look nice on the outside, but then when you got inside, you'd be like, fuck me, it's a time machine, this. Because obviously I could only afford a really old one. But I was happy with it. And then as I got further into the role, like, passed my training year, then did my first year as a normal teacher. And then the third one, I was like, that's when the enormity of like what's in front of you hits you. So like everything's just about qualifying, and then, you know, getting signed off by your school, like getting your, you have like a portfolio, I forgot what it's called now, but it's like your teaching standards and stuff like that, and they have to sign you off. And so it's a bit of a fast paced thing, to be honest with you, because you're at one school, then you do another school, then you go back to the first school, then you go to your first like proper school, like where you're there like all the time and you don't move around. And then you're like, right. And then the second year after that is like, oh shit. Like,
then the
this is now the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Well, then it's, you know, you're not taking over someone else's kids and someone else's classes. Like, these are your own classes. And it's you know, they put kid gloves on you at first, but then like very quickly after like 6 months, it's like, right, could you run your own now?
Yeah.
Like, crack on. And then at that point I was like, this is fucking heavy.
Yeah. So you're 2 years into your teaching career. What was the sort of like the defining? Was there always the underlying thought that you would go into your fitness, or did you think?
No, not at the time. And then,
so what was the defining moment that you were like, I am actually gonna do this?
Well, my old man got diagnosed with bowel cancer, and had to retire pretty much. And he was like,
your dad had to retire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had to do like quite a big operation on his stomach. So he was still doing like manual groundwork at the time, and he just obviously couldn't do it anymore. And I was like, fuck, I need to make some more money to kind of help out at home. And I couldn't. There's no way of like, you know, as a teacher, there's no way you can be like, can I hustle and do some
any
more
extra work?
I mean, you can like mark exam papers and stuff like that, but it's pennies to the pound for the effort.
Couple of £100.
Yeah, it's like nothing that was going to make a massive difference. And obviously my PT, I was like, because I've always got in my head like, listen, you know, people are paying me this money.
I presume you were getting results by this point as well with the clients that you were working with.
Yeah, I mean, obviously like training as a teacher was helping my coaching as well, because it's very similar skill set. But like, obviously at the time I'm like, you know, I've got these 2 clients, these are paying me this. Like, I could do quadruple this, even 6 times this. Even 10 for the workload I was doing as a teacher as well. I'm thinking, fuck me, if I put the same effort into this as I'm into this.
Yeah, it's a third of your wage for 2 of those clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like, you know, I could 10x that and then I'd be sweet. And then, you know, I was only earning 3. So I was like, fuck it, any more than 3, I can just give back at home and I'll be sound. So I left basically, like pretty swiftly. There's usually like a big, long, drawn out process of leaving. And I literally said like, unless you're going to up my wage by like 200% in a week, like I'm gone. Like, I'm sorry.
So you literally just left?
I literally, yeah. Well, it was near Christmas anyway. And I literally just said like, I knew that obviously thought that January was a big month for personal trainers.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, if I don't do this in January, like it's going to be late. Like I'm going to be late to the party. So I left. I left over Christmas. I didn't go back in. And then, yeah, like started personal training full time.
Yeah, and this was what gym was this at?
It was a private gym in Stockport, like a transformation. Well, what at the time it was like a transformation style gym.
Was
Elite Performance, it was called.
Yeah. So
it's changed its name now. It's a different kind of gym now entirely.
Yeah. So you've gone from full time teaching to full time coaching. How did you initially build that business, gym floor coaching?
Oh, if I'm honest,
because this would have been early days of Instagram.
I didn't do social media to start it. I just worked with the members that were in the gym. Like I did classes, I spoke to everyone. It was
like raw gym floor marketing.
Sort of. So it was a private gym anyway, and people paid a fair whack to like go and train there.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, a health club where I started my fitness business, you might have 400-500 members.
Oh no, these had like
this would be a lot smaller,
75,
yeah,
stuff like that. But because of that, you can build quite good relationships with people.
If you got good networking.
Yeah, and it was only open for X hours a day, so kind of you knew when to be there. Like it wasn't like you had to sit around all day. Like I did stay there most of the day because the guy that ran it said, listen, if you man the reception in the off hours, I'll pass you anyone that comes in. Like you'll be first on the list. So I was like, fuck it, I'll sit here all day. I'll just bring my laptop.
Yeah.
And that's when like I started like doing social media and stuff just because of the time that I had there. But again, I'm thinking like it's still fucking easy in teaching.
Yeah, because the one thing, because we had worked together before this point. So when you were a lifeguard, I was at Virgin Active. So I sort of knew you. So from afar, from what I could see, you were getting really good results with your clients.
So yeah, I did. Maybe like, I mean, some of them, like when I look back at them now, I think like, fuck me, like they didn't really want to do that. Like
So what was it? What was it that you were doing that because you were really sort of standing out with, you know, getting these great.
I think
results?
it was just obviously the teaching background that I had, like because I was a teacher. Like remember, like I wasn't teaching in like. Oh, to be fair, St. Pat's was a fucking really good school, but outside of working at St. Pat's, like the schools I worked in were like keep the kids out of prison kind of schools.
Yeah.
Like not like get them GCSEs. It was like if you get these kids through school without them like stabbing someone or throwing chairs around, like you're doing all right. It was like crowd control almost. So like
that skill set.
A lot of the job was getting people to do shit they don't want to do. Like you put a bunch of physics down in front of one of them kids at 14, like master of persuasion.
Yeah.
At times. It's pure manipulation as well. Like you used to go around to the good kids that were doing it, but oh, well done, Timmy. And then all the kids would be like, fuck you. I'm going to do it as well. But yeah, so like, I think that skill set kind of came over. And like, obviously like I was a science teacher. So teaching people like nutrition and stuff like that was fairly okay to me. Like it was something that I was really comfortable with. And like, so I was doing a lot of like the evidence-based nutrition stuff before it was really a thing. You know,
calorie it sounds mad. This calorie deficit was a thing that not many people talked about.
It wasn't a thing. Then, like helping people calculate their own calories and teaching them how to use MyFitnessPal was like
that was groundbreaking at that
point. It was because like
it sounds mad that now, doesn't it?
But like you know, when I first started doing it, like it was one of those things where it was, you know, give them a diet plan like on a piece of paper. And I remember like watching some Americans doing this like if it fits your macros diets where they're like eating cereal and stuff like that. And I was like, that looks fucking well better than what I'm doing. Lane
Norton, wasn't it?
Yeah. And like, so I was always like interested in like the science of it and stuff like that. And then obviously I could read the scientific literature. So I was like, oh, this does make sense. Because a lot of people can sort of read it, but can't read it properly. Yeah. Like they can only read the abstract.
You could digest it.
Well, I could actually figure out if it was worth fucking reading or not.
Articulate that and almost dumb it down.
Well, yeah, you do dumb it down, but like a lot of the scientific literature that you actually look at, like a lot of it's like nonsense.
Yeah.
Like, so you could read an abstract and be like, oh, that's fucking brilliant. That solves that problem. When you actually read the study that they've done, like, makes no sense why they've done it that way. That's a bag of shit. That like they use 74-year-old individuals you've never trained. How is that fucking? So if you don't read that deep into it, you do, and so a lot of them are garbage. But you know, I was good at kind of figuring that out, and then so I obviously read the literature of like, you know, the if it fits your macro stuff, and I kind of started doing that really early, and like MyFitnessPal was a new thing. It was way before the Under Armour days, but like I was using it because I was quite techie on my phone and stuff like that. So like my clients really got onto that, and because it was so different, like they really enjoyed it. And then obviously people started coming because they were like,
and you had
hang on a minute, like he's got really good results,
really good reputation in the Stockport. I remember that. So what point did you get to in the on the gym floor coaching before you started doing online? Was there a bit of a crossover at some point, or is it you decided that
I always did online stuff anyway, but like I just didn't call it online. But there was obviously people in the gym that were like, I don't really need you to stand there with me. Like, can you? And because I was getting known for the nutrition stuff more than anything else, because I was just doing whatever training people liked, to be honest with you. If they wanted to do bodybuilding, if they wanted to do like, you know, prowler stuff, if they wanted to do circuits for all I cared, I didn't really give a fuck, to be honest with you. And because I'd done all that shit, because I just enjoyed training and exercising when I was younger, like it wasn't new to me. But the nutrition was the stuff that people were like really coming to me for. So that's like why the online stuff happened, because some people were just like, oh, actually, you know what, mate? Like I've got my own training. Like I train with my mate. Like we're all right with that. It's not really a problem. I just want to do like the nutrition stuff. So I used to just sell it like that. And that's how like I had online clients. But I think when you're younger, it's hard to juggle and focus on it. And it never was something that I pushed. It was always just something that I did if someone came to me.
A lot of people don't realize it's running two separate businesses.
Yeah. And then I moved to FLF in town, which was like a brilliant gym. like a brilliant gym, but it just, the time in my life that I did that, I just wasn't ready to like, bearing in mind, like I used to go out a lot at university, but then afterwards I never really did. And then when I moved into town and working in town, I was going out quite a lot. I was definitely like hanging around the wrong kind of people. I was up to all sorts of shit that I can't say on camera, but like it was bad at the time. And I just didn't lose focus on it, but I just didn't probably live up to my potential there. And it wasn't anything to do with the place as such. It was more to do with like where I was at that time in my life. So then the kind of, I don't know, I was struggling there, to be honest with you. Like it was a much higher rent than I was used to.
What was it that you were struggling with? Where did you want to, at this point in your career, where did you think you were going to go? What direction did you think
I didn't know. And that was the thing. Like I didn't know really where I wanted to go. I'd kind of come from not being a big fish in a small pond, because that's disrespectful to the people I used to work with. But like I had a really good reputation where I was in Stockport. Lots of people knew me. Lots of people used to come out of the way to train with me.
Yeah,
and
Manchester's a different.
In town, yeah, it's a different animal for one. The ethos at the gym was slightly different to what I would personally like to coach, and there was a bit of a back and forth there about like what was expected out of me.
For those of you that don't know, the gym that you'd moved to is a bit more of a group training facility. Is that right?
No, at the time they were still doing like the transformational based stuff, but like you were given clients instead of getting your own. So like,
so you're limited.
It's not even that. It's just sometimes there was friction because like they wanted transformations. Like that was at the time, that's what the gym wanted. The gym wanted to produce transformations like similar to like UP and places like that. But sometimes these people would pay and then they'd come to you for the work, but they didn't want to do it. Like they didn't really want to do it.
Yeah, because some people just want to. I'll be the first to admit, I turn up to my PT for a bit of a training session and a chat sometimes.
Wasn't quite like that. Like the people obviously wanted it when they come in because they paid a fair whack for it. But some of them like didn't want, they just didn't have enough of a drive to do it, to really see it through. And even texting them every day and getting on top of the back and stuff like that. Sometimes if you dealt 10 clients, like 3 or 4 of them, sometimes they just don't want to do it. And that was where there was a bit of friction, because I was like, these people don't want to do it. And it was a bit like, well, you've got to get them to do it. And I was like, well, I don't really know how that works when someone's paying me for a service. Like, can I really a lot of them were older than me as well and stuff like that. And I'm like, one of them literally said, like, if you force me to do this, I'll just leave. And I was like, you can't leave because I need the money. So I'll just do what you want. And I think it was just a communication issue, to be fair. But there was a lot of very, very good trainers there. And I think I kind of, from being around those kind of people, like a lot of them were like really high level bodybuilders, like, etc. And I think I kind of lost myself because I was always like the one that was smart, but I wouldn't really make a big deal out of it. And I would like dumb it down for people. And then when I went there, I think I went too far the other way, like trying to compete. And I was like super, super science. Yeah. And I think it kind of took off my personality, really. I kind of shrank and went into my shell at that point.
Right. So what, how long were you there for, and what?
Not very long at all. Literally like 4 months. And like I said, a lot of it was what was going on in my life outside of it as well. But like it was a pretty turbulent.
So what happened when you left the gym? All the clients, because I presume that all the clients that you were working with then stayed at the gym.
In Stockport?
No. When you've left Frontline.
I didn't leave I left Frontline because I had the accident there. So that's where I snapped my legs.
Right. Okay. So go on. Explain the accident. We've touched on this a little bit, but what was it that happened?
So I was doing a farmer's walk. My knees were already quite bad from sport anyway, but I was doing a farmer's walk and I put 2 feet wrong pretty much. And both of my knees went back to front. So my patella tendon was completely severed.
There's a pretty cool photo. Well,
there's a video actually. Yeah. There's a video of me doing it. But like my kneecaps were like up here, like couldn't move my legs, like pretty much waist down, paralyzed. Just because, there was nothing moving my legs because everything was fucked up. I thought I just dislocated them. So I'm having like a fucking laughing joke out of it. And then when I get to the hospital, the consultant comes and he's like, your knees are in probably one of the worst states I've ever seen. And I was like, what do you mean by that? He was like, if you walk out of this hospital at all, I'll be very, very surprised. He's like, so prepare yourself for that because that might be coming. And then when they did the MRI, they were like, you might be all right with a cane. But they were like, you'll probably walk with a cane for the rest of your life. And I was like, fuck this. Like I was like 25 or 26. And I was like, that's atrocious. So there was one point where the surgeon at Manchester Royal Infirmary, who was technically like an ankle specialist, he was like, I'm not touching it. He's like, I refuse to operate on it because it's a mess and I'll do more damage than good. And he went, well, what are the options? And he was like, we cap it at the knee and we'll give him prosthetics because he's got a better chance of walking unaided with prosthetics than he does trying to fix that.
Fuck.
And I was like,
so
they left me with that for like 3 days. And then they managed to get this German specialist in. So he flew. I don't know if he was German, actually. I think I was.
He was probably German. I can imagine they're good at that type of stuff.
I was proper fucking high at the time. They give you a button for morphine, and I was like pressing it like I was playing track and field. And I remember they used to give you like the morphine on a pump, and then they give you OxyContin tablets. And I used to pretend to take the ones in the morning because my sleep was shit because I was in a lot of pain. So I used to pretend to take the ones in the morning and stash them. And then I'd take 4 at night and just fucking spat. I swear one point I thought the nurses were dragons, like they were going to come after me. I heard him saying like, we'll get him when he's sleeping. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, it was mad. But yeah, it was fucking really surreal time. So I don't know to this day whether the bloke was German. The whole thing's a little bit like hazy.
So once you'd left, I presume that the money from coaching
stopped
pretty
completely.
Much stopped. So you went from having a thriving one-on-one coaching business to not having any income at all. What happened next? How did you get started with GRT? What sparked that idea?
So I actually went back to teaching,
right,
for a bit. I went back to teaching because I was like, there ain't no place on a gym floor for someone with fucking on crutches and whatever.
That must have been pretty hard to go back to, because I presume when you quit teaching in the first time to do coaching, I presume there would be a lot of people that were saying, what are you doing?
Yeah, but then because of the personal issues I was having, like even before the accident, like I think at that point I was like, I'm fucking done with this anyway. I was like, I'll settle for my 24K a year. Because at the time I was like making no money. So I was really not helping out at home. If anything, I was fucking making the situation worse. So like teaching what I did was I signed up to do supply work. And then, I was all right on my legs. Like I was fucking shit on stairs, but like I could stand up and you wouldn't know I was fucked, basically. So like bearing in mind, like I was a trained physics teacher. I was young. I was a male. So like the first school I went in were like, do you want a full-time job? And because it was like, I'd fucking had my hands tattooed at the time and I was like, are you sure? And they were like, to be fair, I think the kids will probably do better with it than without it. Like it was pretty rough actually. Yeah. It was a fucking rough school. Like, I remember searching kids for knives and stuff like that. So it was pretty up there. For me, I'm like, it's not that rough because it's not like a Peru, but for most people who are listening to this, it's a fucking proper rough school. Like we had drug dealers turn up outside the gates looking for the kids that had lost their gear and stuff like that. So like, it was pretty much like that. So like they obviously like when they saw me, like I was still like pretty big because I'd got back into training by that time. I used to like, my dad used to drive me to Pure Gym in the back of the van. So I used to get in the back of his van like and put my legs across the seat and then I'd get around in Pure Gym on my crutches and use the machines just to get out of the house really. So I was still pretty big and like obviously quite young, like tattoos, and they just must have thought, that'll do for these kids. Like at least they'll fucking listen. So they literally came in with the woman. I remember the head of science popped her head. I was covering a drama lesson or some shit, and these kids were pretending to be trees. And yeah, it was mad. And the head of science popped her head round the corner, and she was like, "Are you a supply teacher?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "You're trained in physics, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She went, "We're looking for a physics teacher." And I was like, "Oh, And she was like, "Yeah, do you want to interview like when you finish today?" And I was like, I've not prepared anything. She went, yo, you don't need to like actually do anything. I just want to have a word with you. And she basically like chatted to me for like half an hour and then gave me the job. But so the thing with that was like, I was really grateful for the opportunity, but it was exactly the same issue that I had before. Like the staff were actually a lot better. Like the staff were really cool there, but I didn't like the whole experience. Didn't want to be doing it. I didn't want to do marketing. I thought it was a fucking waste of time. The kids never even read it anyway, so it's pointless to everyone. And just the bureaucracy of it, like the paperwork, I don't like paperwork. I'll never enjoy paperwork. And it's a lot of paperwork. It's a huge amount of paperwork. If I could rock up and just deliver the teaching, I'd have done it my whole life, I think. But there's just so much more that comes with the job that you don't realize. And I just started to not like it. And if I didn't like it, I just started to not do it, to be honest. Have you done this marketing? I'm like, no, I had a weekend. They're like, oh, well, we do all our marketing on the weekend. I'm like, good for you. Like, I'm not doing it. Like, do you pay me on weekends? And they're like, no, but you're expected to do it. I'm like, I think your expectations are too high of what I should be able to do in a normal working week. And there was always like a bit of friction. And then again, I've been doing some PT on the side, but by then, obviously, I had quite a decent social media presence because I've been doing social media about coaching. And then basically the kids found it. Bearing in mind, like, it weren't like weirder out. Like, I was going to say I don't have my ass out, but why would I have my ass out anyway? But like, I weren't with my shirt off. I weren't even in a vest. Like, all I was like doing shit on a whiteboard, just like I fucking did in school. And they were like, oh yeah, but we think it's inappropriate for
The school said.
The school were like, we don't really like it. And I was like, with all due respect, I get paid more for my personal training clients than you pay me. So
when you were back there working, how much were you earning from online? Was it online coaching or just
a bit of both? So what I did was I had funny enough, the same 2 clients,
right?
Like, that had always paid me 800 quid a month, like, between them. And then I used to do like online challenges, like transformation challenges, and I'd do them every quarter because it was 12 weeks. And I'd make all right money off it, considering it was, pretty
on
basic.
Top of a wage
I think it was like £50 per person, but I'd routinely get like 20 people. So for me, I'm like, fucking sound. Like, it was easy work considering. So I was doing that, and then I'm thinking, obviously, if I stop doing the social media, like, obviously, how am I fucking going to sell that challenge? I'm going to be back down to my 2 clients paying 800 quid, and it's a pretty decent pay cut, like, for me. Like, that kind of, grand and a bit that I used to get from doing the challenge, like, at the time, would pay for me to go on holiday that year.
Yeah.
Or, I'd be able to buy my mum and dad a fucking Christmas present, or just give them the cash.
Mm-hmm.
And, taking that away, I was like, oh, that's all actually the nice bits of my life that it's going to go. And then also in my head, I'm thinking, well, I'm doing 20 of them now, but what if I'm doing 50? Like, that's a lot more money. So I was literally like, is it a case of I have to stop or, and they were like, yeah. And I was like, well, what happens if I don't? And it's like, well, we'll go through disciplinary procedures with you. And I was like, well, what does that look like? And he went, well, we'll have to see whether you've broken any rules, if there's any safeguarding issues, and then it'll obviously go to a court. And I was like, you think I'm going to stand up in court like some fucking nonce and like, no, but you know what I mean? Like, that's what teachers go to court for, innit? Like, they get stood in front of thingies, like, trying to see whether they're inappropriate. I'm like, all I've done is post like nutrition shit online. I was like, you think I'm going through that procedure that you run the nonces through as well? You can fuck right off. No, but you imagine like where I'm from as well. Like, if someone says that, oh, he's being taken to like a tribunal for teaching, immediately people like,
nonce.
you end up on P-wing and stuff like that. It's not for me.
He's been texting a bird.
Fucking. Well, then my head's going like, I just didn't want any of the smoke with it, to be honest with you. I thought, oh, this will do. This dickhead will try and find like every book I've not marked, every I I've not crossed, like everything like that. I thought, can I be asked with some dickhead going through my last year's worth of work with a fine-tooth comb, finding everything that I've not done perfectly with regards to my marketing or my reporting? I just thought, fuck that. So I just said, like, listen, I'm not coming back in tomorrow. No, I think what I did was I said, like, I'm stressed, so I'm not coming back in. And then they said, well, you need to still plan your lessons. And I was like, no, I'm not. I was like, what other job do you go off sick and you still have to work? I was like, you can fuck right off. And then that got into even more of an argument. I was like, listen, this is a fucking spiral that we're not going to get out of here. So then I just left.
So you left teaching. You've already got the basis of the transformation challenges. You're making a little bit of money. You've got a bit of an audience. What were your next steps from not teaching? You just plan to just do more social media, get more people on these challenges?
That was the initial plan. I actually ended up picking up quite a lot of in-person stuff, but like locally to my house, like, it was absolute godsend. There's a bloke called John Hodgson, a bodybuilder. Really, actually, well, he was a very good one. He's still a pretty good one now, but obviously he's retired. He opened a gym near my house. So we went there and basically that was it. Like, I started picking up clients. Like, obviously, I was charging quite a lot in town and I kept the same price. And I was like, fuck it. Like, I've not got massive rent overheads. To be fair to the boy, he's a fucking legend, right? He just let me pay the gym entry for the person. So like, if they came in, it was like $350 and that was it. And actually I said, what about if I buy them a membership if they're coming more than once? If I would just buy my monthly membership? He was like, yeah, sound.
Yeah.
Like,
So you
didn't give a
weren't
fuck
paying
at
mu-
all.
you weren't paying much
There was
rent.
nothing in it for him.
Yeah.
Nothing in it for him at all. Like, one of the nicest blokes I've ever met. And yeah, so I was doing that. And then the problem was with that is, because I spent a year out of work, I had a lot of debt I had to pay off.
Yeah.
Like, bearing in mind, the NHS signed you off as legally able when you can get to the toilet. So if you can get up your stairs or down your stairs to your toilet, you're physically able. You're not on like this person needs help register. So I had to pay for like private physio. I had a car on lease at the time from when I was teaching and personal training that was easily afforded.
And you weren't earning money.
Tried to ring them, hey, like I've fucking snapped both of my legs, like I can't drive it if I wanted to. Can you take it back? Oh yeah, we've got a severance payment. I was like, oh cool, what's a severance payment? They're like, exactly the same as the rest of the fucking contract will be. And I was like, oh, that's fucking helpful, cheers. And they went, we'll take a bit of interest off. I was like, you shove your interest up your ass. So like, I had that to pay off. Like, there was obviously stuff adding up at like home and stuff. Like, I still had a bit of rent to pay from where I was living, and then I moved back home. So yeah, it was a bit of a madness, but I ended up like, I think it was about 15 bags in debt.
Yeah.
Which, when
It's
you
a lot
take
of
it out
money,
without
yeah.
thinking about the interest rates and thinking about the term, because I'm thinking I'm going straight back into work and I'll pay it off. So like, the payments were pretty hefty because of the time frame that I took the loans out over. And then because I'd taken it all out, when I rang them to get extensions, they're like, nah, your credit shit. And I'm like, the credit shit because you're not giving me an extension. Like, what am I doing here? So that was like the major issue, is that a lot of the money I was earning was going back into paying that off. And it felt like, I just felt a bit stuck.
Yeah.
Like, at one point, I literally said to my dad, I was like, I'm trying to make good money here, but every month I'm crippled by making these payments, and I'm trying to help you guys out, and I can't do that at the minute. And I just feel like a bit of a fucking failure, to be honest. I'm not sure what to do. And he was, literally, my dad looked at me and he just went, fucking deal with it. And I was like, sound, all right.
So what was the next step then? You've got your one-on-one coaching business. You're doing
So
bits
I
online.
did a business course for like online coaching.
So it's specifically for building an online
For
business.
building an online business, yeah. And I did, I did none of the course. I did none of it. What actually happened was, I paid the guy. He sent me over like a load of pre-contract things, like, here, you could try all this before you get started to get your toe in the water. And I did it, and I made $8,000. So I just didn't do the course. I was like, fuck it, I'll just keep doing this. And I kept doing that. And it kept working. So to be fair, like, why the fuck would I sit through a 10-week course? Like, it worked, to be fair.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't.
You took a little bit of
the
information
modules
and
were like
ran with
about
it.
mindset and gut health, and I was like, fuck that. Like, I just want to make some dough. Like, I know what I'm doing there. I've got a fucking degree. So I kind of pied off most of the course. I was already pretty good at social media. I just wasn't very good at turning it into customers. And that little bit that I got was almost like the piece of the puzzle that was missing.
Yeah.
And then because I'd got loads of transformations, because I'd worked in these gyms that did transformations, I just started making money.
Yeah. So talk me through that first year of GRT. And GRT was the name of the...
Yeah. Well, so first it was Coach Steve McGrath.
Right, yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, I've
me.
seen the logo.
Yeah, the purple one.
Yeah, the purple logo. It's
Purple
horrific.
CS.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It looked like...
Go on his Facebook if you've got...
Is it still there?
Try and find him on Facebook. You don't use his Facebook.
I
Go on
spent
his
50
Facebook.
quid
It's
on
on
that
his,
logo.
It's on his Facebook profile from like 7 years ago or something.
I spent 50 quid on that logo, I'll have you know. Before it was McGrath Training Systems. And I
Oh,
thought
you've seen that one as well.
thought that was a bit serious. So it was and we went for purple, so it was a bit more inviting. See, I thought about it, right?
So talk
Shit
me through
execution, but the thought was there.
Talk me through the GRT growth, because this is where I feel like I definitely started noticing, noticing and hearing about it, and people.
I got
talking
up
about
to there you go. That's sick.
Oh, that's it.
I don't even know what that was. No, you know what the worst thing was? I paid someone for that.
I like how they've converted the C into the S.
Yeah, that's it.
It's creative.
It almost looks like a fucking wonky Vodafone, doesn't it? But yeah, so that was my first ever logo, which just shows you can make 8 bags a month having a fucking wank logo.
Don't even need
like
a logo.
I should have gone without the logo, to be fair. But anyway, I did. I don't know what hit me. So basically, I made more money than I knew what to do with. Like $8,000 to me was like, holy fuck, like.
So pretty much soon after you started the online, you were doing like $8,000.
Did $8,000 in the first month, and I think I dropped under it. The second month was the only month that I made less than $8,000, and that's because I made 5. But at that point, I'd made, I just fucking struggled to do it, 13 grand, which was nearly my whole fucking debt. By month 3, I'd paid off my debt.
Yeah.
And by month 4, there's actually stuff that happened in between that shit, but I'll forget about it because it's a story for another day. I consulted on an app as well for like 4 months, which was actually really cool. Taught me loads about business. The guy's a really good businessman. But anyway, moved into that. Yeah, paid off my debt by like month 3. Month 4, I'd gone on holiday to Barcelona. And bearing in mind, every fucking holiday I've been on up until that point. Well, bearing in mind, I'd not been on holiday.
Yeah.
I'd not been on holiday since I went on tour with university to go to Salou.
So
and I paid like 300 quid and I went on a coach.
Yeah.
So it'd been a very long time. And I went there and I was like, well, fucking hell, like I've got money to do stuff here. I had fillet steak sat on a bed on the beach in, I forgot, Carpe Diem was the restaurant. And I just thought, this is fucking mint, this. Like,
so there was a big change in
yeah, like
lifestyle
me and Charlotte got like a guided tour around the Sagrada Familia, like with a private tour guide and stuff. And I was like, this is fucking top. Yeah. Like, we stayed in a nice hotel, whereas usually it would be like, where's the cheapest thing that doesn't look like it's got rats? And at that point, I come back and I was like, right, I want to grow this because
you'd had the taste for the money,
fillet steak on the beach.
the nicer things in life.
Like sushi for the first time that wasn't from Tesco, and I was like, sushi from Tesco is wank, mate.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, but I thought
you want to get that Marks and Spencer sushi. That's the good stuff.
We weren't shopping in Marks and Spencer at the time. And Morrison's is still the most elite shop ever. Hot Counter's untouchable. But yeah, so then when I got back, I was like, right, I'm going all in on this. And obviously I was like, I've paid off my whole, now when I think about 15 bags, I'm like, fuck me, I want to get out of bed for that. But like before that, it was like some fucking, never ending pit of money that I was never going to get out of. And I was like, just pay that off in 3 months. Like, imagine what I could do in 3 months and 6 months. And my brain started like getting carried away with me, but I think it's a good thing because it kind of gave 100%. Me some vision to like where I could go. And yeah, so like I took on as many clients as I could handle. Then I hired Lewis, who'd just come back from Australia after finding out his heart was failing and all that shit, which we've already spoken about.
You can check out that podcast episode.
Yeah, and his dad sat me down and was like, do you know what you're doing? And I was like, I thought I did until now.
This was Lewis's dad.
This was Lewis's dad. Lewis's dad is fucking scary.
Because you convinced Lewis to quit his job.
Oh, I convinced Lewis. It was his dad that I had to convince properly. And I still don't know to this day whether he believed me or not. He probably says he did now.
Yeah.
But he might still be thinking he could have been manager or hacker him. He gave it away. Threw it all away. But yeah, so like that was the kind of next step, hiring Lewis. Then I hired Sarah, who's still with us.
Yeah.
Because she was my mate. Well, my mate lived in Dubai and I put a job ad out for like an assistant. And he was like, oh, my friend's girlfriend's like proper good at stuff like actually for like Emiratis. And I was like, she must be fucking good then, because those guys will fucking, if you don't go for customer service with them, like,
Sarah's sick.
They do speak like very bluntly. So I was like, she can take that. She can take whingy people that we deal with.
Yeah.
So she did anyway. So I had those two.
So Lewis was doing your coaching, Sarah was doing...
Lewis was coaching, Sarah was doing all the client relation stuff. So she was our first success. Like when we use success coaches, because that's what I had and I thought it was fucking... So I got up to the point of doing...
Just explain what a success coach is for those
like
that don't
dealing
know.
with like day-to-day client stuff, like dealing with payment issues, commenting on people's workouts, making sure that they're progressing themselves. Like we did that every day for every client, which most coaches don't do. Yeah. But we did.
Yeah. And what benefit did that have to the...
Just meant that they did everything. Like people got better results because they stuck to it, because it was a daily reminder, like we're here. Not like, hey, like this is your weekly check-in, forget about me by Wednesday, definitely forget about me for Friday, and I see you on Monday to tell you how shit you've done. So like we were on it like every single day with it. So it was very like high touch service. Like we were probably at the time the most premium coaching service you could get.
And you contribute the results that you got in the business to this?
Oh, at the time, again, there's probably companies that have been running, because I killed off GRT to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But so there's probably companies that like, but at the time we were like the company.
Yeah.
Like we got the best results. Like we delivered better than anyone else did.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time, because I had an online coaching business at that same point, so I knew who you were, what you did. There wasn't many online coaching businesses that were actually businesses. A lot of online coaching businesses at the time were just basically just the coach.
Oh, don't get me wrong, it looked like that on the outside,
yeah.
but like on the inside, it was still the little dog with the fire saying this is fine. You know that picture? The one with the little dog, and he's having a coffee in the office, and the whole office is on fire. And he's like, "This is fine." Yeah, it was like that.
So you just sort of learning
Most days,
on your
I
go.
learned as I went along, and then obviously we ended up hiring 4 coaches.
Yeah.
And we had a group program that we used to sell to like 300 people every intake at 150 quid a month.
Yeah.
So like at that point we were earning like fucking stupid money.
Yeah.
Like it was literally for fitness stuff. It was stupid money.
Yeah.
And that was really kind of, you know, where we got to with GRT.
Yeah.
That was like the top end of it.
So you've built the online business with GRT. You've hired staff. You've got full-time staff. You've got clients. What sparked your interest in working with coaches?
Because I'm a coach,
right,
and I'm a teacher, and
so how did it initially come about? Were coaches
people just
asking
come
you for
to me?
help?
Yeah, people would just come to me and say, you know, can I pay you for your time? Can I pay you to sit down on a call with you? And then it got. I'd like chat to anyone pretty much about anything. I'd still like that now. Really, if people message me, like the amount of free content that we put out now, people are always like, "Oh my god, like that's fucking. Why do you give that out for free?" I've always done that.
Yeah,
I've always had time for people, but it's got to be in an efficient manner, or else it affects my business. So there was a point where I was like, right, I can't keep doing this for free anymore ad hoc because like it's taking up loads of my time. So I'll dedicate a day to it. Bearing in mind, I was scaling myself out of like day to day at GRT at the time. So I was working like maybe 2 days a week in the business, which was still turning over. I think at the time we were turning over like 50 or 60. And then when what we started doing originally it wasn't business coaching, wasn't even fucking close.
Yeah.
It was installing our coaching systems into other people's businesses because we were slick. Like, you know, we had emails written by Mike Samuels. We had automation set up before Joe, actually. I can't remember who set them up. We had like content plans, like Joel. We had a content guy, Joel, who was doing everything. Like Shannon was doing VA stuff for us. So we basically like installed those systems. So it was coaching systems. It was nothing to do with business. It was like, if you've got loads of clients and you want to get better results.
Yeah, so you were teaching coaches how to get better results with clients.
Yeah, how to coach, essentially. Yeah. So we had the GRT Academy, which was like 4 coaches, and we just changed it. It was green instead of orange. And that's what took us over 7 figures, because that arm of the business just went like, so we were topping out at like 50 to 60K, like with just pure fitness, like coaching clients. And then that stuff came in and I'd sell 10 spots for $1,000 at a time, like every 2 weeks by email. I just created an email list for PTs. And I said, listen, if you want my thoughts, keep asking me about my thoughts for coaching, I'll give them you. Join the email list. And we just ran an email blast like once every couple of weeks. And it 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand, just like that.
Yeah.
And so that just went fucking through the roof. And that's what put us as a company like over 7 figures. But then obviously there was a time disparity.
Yeah, yeah.
And like truthfully, I'd scale myself out coaching clients. Like I've been PTing. Remember, I've been doing fitness stuff like when I was a fucking child. Like literally like since I was 16, I've been in a leisure centre. So I was a bit done.
Yeah.
To be better in mind, that's a decade already.
Yeah.
That I've been in and around gyms, like working with people on that. So I was still covering gym shifts when I was lifeguarding at like 18. So like, you know, I'd been in it for a while and I'd lost the shine for it. I'd been overweight as like as a child, but like never in my full grown adult life had I been overweight. I was always fucking bigger and stronger than everyone, to be fair. Like, so like it just didn't. I enjoyed it, but it didn't really resonate for me.
Do you feel like you connected more with the coaches than the?
Well, the business stuff changed my life. Growing my business changed my life, and I'm assuming that weight loss does that for certain people as well. But like, I'd never experienced that. Like, the big changes in my life was obviously being able to like keep my dad retired.
Yeah,
my mum doesn't need to, you know, think she can retire whenever she fucking wants. She won't for some reason, but she could. Like, my family are all taken care of. Like, I've got a hefty life insurance set up that if anything happens to me, everyone's paid pretty much. Yeah. So like, I'm sound. Like,
so there was no moment that you were like, right, I need to step away from GRT to focus on the coaching, or was it just the case that you were enjoying it?
Yeah, you generally gravitate more to what you enjoy.
Yeah.
So my 1 day a week became 2 days a week, and my 2 days a week became 3 days a week, and 3 became 4.
Yeah.
And it ended up I was only doing GRT on a Monday, and the rest of it was, you know, kind of doing the business stuff. So even then the business stuff was doing like 40, 50 grand a month.
Yeah.
On top of GRT, which actually, to be fair, had suffered because I dropped all my clients. GR8 wasn't doing as well because I wasn't putting as much into the marketing for that because I was spending so much time doing this. But it was still turning over like a solid 30 to 40. So it wasn't like that far down from where the peak was. And like none of it was my work. Like it was all, but then I looked at it and we had some issues with the culture in GRT, probably because I'd stepped out and not stepped out properly. So I wasn't managing everyone as effectively as I could. And that was a failure of myself in that business. I was still the face. So I hadn't exited properly. I'd exited out the back door and kind of left it the way it was in the front. And it was going to take a fucking load of reinvestment and effort to get it to where like I could step out properly. And to be honest with you, I just didn't want the smoke at that point. I was like, that's a big job. It's going to take a lot of new staff that I'm going to have to train up. It's going to take me away from doing this, which I really enjoy. And it's almost not fair. Some of the staff fucking shit anyway. But being completely honest, like some of them needed a lot of motivation.
Yeah.
Like
but
some of them were very staff but there was 2 or 3 staff where it was really unfair on because they deserved more of me. And so I just said like, listen, I'm going to help you set up your own things. And the 2 staff that actually like I wasn't really happy with, they went off anyway and didn't take me up on it. And Mayor and Lewis did.
Yeah, and they're both smashing it now.
Well, yeah, like they're doing all right. They're doing all right. So obviously I took them on into like kind of enveloped them into the program that I was already doing. But then it was still all very like seat in my pants, like mentoring stuff. And then when we got to the end of the year, I was like, right, I'm going to fucking close it down. I'm going to, every client that's coming to the end of the term, I'm going to let them go like at the end of the term, which is a fucking big risk to be fair. But I'd already got a load of money saved up. So I was cool for like 3 or 4 months easy. And I thought, right, I'm going to build this properly from the ground up the way that I wanted to. And kind of that was how kind of the collective coaching thing started. It was me. I spent November and December building it. And then I only ever spoke about it in January, and we launched it in January of that year. And it just went fucking mad.
It's been a mad 12 months, hasn't it?
Mad 12 months, it has.
And I think we'll leave that 12 months to another podcast. So we'll probably wrap it up there.
Yeah. I thought
that was good, that. Good time. Covered quite a bit of ground there, didn't we?
I feel like I've had therapy.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty deep, that, wasn't it? That was the deep.
I don't like it.
I think that might have been the deepest one we've done.
Is it really?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it was good, that.
I don't know. Tarzan's was pretty deep.
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, it was. No, but I enjoyed that. I enjoyed being on the other side today.
Yeah, I'm going to grill you about your childhood and stuff like that next time.
Trauma! Right, I'll let you.
Lots of people find it attractive, mate. People are attracted to trauma. They love it. They love listening to other people's horror stories.
They do. Right, I hope you've enjoyed that podcast episode. If you have done, make sure you're following on all platforms. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop us a comment below and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.